Welcome to my Wellness Rewired, Hacking Women's Health. Join Larissa and Mallory as they explore biohacking tips for women based on the latest science and research available today. Let them help you unlock your best self. It's time to hack smarter, not harder, together.
All right, today we are thrilled to welcome Cindy Dupuie. She is a functional medicine nutritionist and a founder of a Living Balance right here local to me here in Irvine, California, which I'm very excited about. Yay. She has well over 17 years of experience. She has a Bachelor of Science in Dietetics and a certification from the Institute for Functional Medicine. Cindy helps women reclaim their energy, mood, and vitality, especially through perimenopause, menopause, and hormone replacement therapy, which I know very little about. So I'm very excited for you to teach us today about what that means.
I'm happy to. I'm excited to teach you about it. Yeah. And share it with you and your audience.
Yeah, we're excited because this has been a natural path like we talked about before we got started today, but we kind of go down wherever the rabbit holes take us, and it's just following along, and we've come to women's hormones, but we haven't hit it head on in the show yet. So we're very excited to get it today. We have, for everybody who's listening, little hands that we will clap for things that we're happy about. You've seen them before. They're back.
I didn't get any.
I know.
We'll
we
send you
should have
some.
sent you
Okay.
some.
Okay.
So to start off, Cindy, we want to hear a little more about you. So you had your own healing crisis in 2002 with adrenal fatigue, leaky gut, hormone issues. So what was it that woke you up to functional medicine, and how has that shaped the way that you help women today?
I love that question. Well, yeah, around 2002, 2003, I was going through a divorce. And, it's a very stressful time in your life. Everything just kind of like the cards go up and you go, where are they going to come down? And during that time, I would say that, my adrenals were just firing full force. And I actually threw myself into an early menopause at age 43. Basically because of the stress level, but also I lost too much weight. And, the backbone of our hormones is fat and cholesterol. And if you don't have enough fat on your body, it's like, excuse me, we don't need to make any, sex hormones. And so basically I was menstruating 1 month, and the next month I didn't, have a period, and then kept on going. And even when I righted myself, probably about age 45, 46, took me a little while, my body says, we aren't going to turn it back on. We're done. So I didn't know I was in perimenopause. I just knew that when your, periods stopped, you were in menopause. So I thought, well, okay, I'm in menopause. And some of the things that were going on, I didn't attribute to that. I kind of attributed it to the stress that was going on in my life. And probably a lot of it was that. I was fortunate in that I didn't have a whole lot of really bad symptoms per se. I mean, I did have some night sweats and hot flashes. And I would say for me, when my hormones go low, I tend to have a little bit more urogenital, issues, leakage, stuff like that. All that wonderful stuff. But, and I was anxious, but again, I could attribute that to everything that was going on. But it wasn't horrible. I would say the worst part about that whole period was my digestive system. And it basically kind of stopped working. And I was bloated, and there wasn't a whole lot back then. So this is over 20 years ago, other than the Western medicine paradigm, right? Of, you go to gastroenterologist, they do a colonoscopy or something like that. You look good. See you later, bye. Or they label you with IBS, which is a wastebasket, diagnosis. We have a lot more things to go on now. Yeah, we do. But at that point in time, really what got me into functional medicine, thank God it did, because that's what held me out of my digestive issues, which really got to a really bad point where it was uncomfortable. And it kind of became all consuming at one point. But what got me into functional medicine was, I got my degree a long time ago in dietetics, and I've always loved the human body. I've been fascinated by the way that it works. It's just an amazing machine.
Oh, same.
And I thought, I really would like to get back to that. And so the first thing I did actually was I became a yoga instructor. And so that was kind of cool. I mean, yoga kind of got me through, I would say, that period. I got really lucky in that I found it. And I said, I just kind of want to pay it forward. And it's something that was true to my heart at that particular time. It still is. I still teach.
I
And
love
I
it.
just like to boss people around. But I kind of do. They can't say
I
anything.
get
I
that.
go, yeah. It's like they can't say anything back to me. So it's perfect venue. But what happened was there were some of my yoga students who knew that I had my degree and, started talking to me about it. And I ended up going to a lecture by another nutritionist, and she happened to have a book, and I go like this because it's still right behind me. A book written by Dr. Mark Hyman, and that was again, like 25 years ago.
Wow.
And it was called The Ultimate Metabolism. And I got it and I started reading it and I thought, oh my God, this stuff makes so much sense. And then I was looking for a client, something was going on with him, and I was trying to, Google it. And somehow I stumbled upon the Institute of Functional Medicine. It was probably through Dr. Mark Hyman, because he was one of the original people on the board. So he'd been in functional medicine for a long time. Saw that they were doing a training out here in Pasadena, California. And I said, I think I have to go to that. And it was a week-long intensive. And after doing that, I thought, I have found my tribe. I'm digging deep here. I'm taking as many classes as I can and learning everything I can about functional medicine and applying it to myself and to my clients. Now, for those of you who don't know what functional medicine is, the premise is looking at the root cause of why there's an imbalance or why there's a disease. Why is there something going wrong here? And there can be so many different roots feeding into that. And so it's not just looking at the person right there in front of you, but it's going back to their history and even family history. And maybe going, okay, so how many antibiotics did you have growing up? What is your, how many amalgam fillings do you have? Do you, what was your bowel movements like growing up? What was your toxic exposure? So there's so many different areas that you would hit on to kind of figure it out. And the thing is, when I went into menopause, it was right around 2003, which is right when the Women's Health Initiative study came out, the WHI study. And if you don't know about that, you will learn about it. You need to know about it because it has basically framed the narrative that we have been given for over 2 decades, and our doctors have been given for over 2 decades. Okay. So that is right when I went into menopause. Again, it was early. And then for some reason, because I was seeing functional medicine, integrative types of doctors, I happened to go to one when I was 50. And I'm not sure why she put me on HRT because I didn't ask for it because I didn't know. Okay. I think I was taking progesterone on my own because I could order that on my own. You can get progesterone over the counter. But she put me on a low dose of a bias, so 2 different types of estrogens. We don't really do that so much now. There are camps, okay, biased doctors and non-biased doctors, more in the older camp, okay, where they come from. But it was, predicated on the lowest, mildest dose as I was put on. And it did me well, right, for a long time. And as, I was getting older, I was watching my own contemporaries and watching them going to the doctors more often, in pain, osteoporosis, more cancer, believe it or not, and just weight gain, just losing their vitality, okay, and not being able to do the things that they want to do. So I was watching that. And then I was watching my own clients, all right, who I know how they eat. I know what their lifestyle is. I know they take care of themselves, but we were still losing some ground. So before, I would take the intake and ask them how they're doing and ask the cursory question of, how's your libido? On a scale of 1 to 10. And if they would say a 2 or a 3, I would say, well, does that bother you? Or do you want help with that? Or, how are you with that? And
Yeah.
often I'll get, well, it doesn't really bother me because my partner or my husband is not interested anymore. And you see that a lot. And that's an issue health wise. Okay. And
Hmm.
then either that or they weren't in a relationship and they really didn't care about it. So because we have been taught, or at least I was, that our sex hormones are all about libido, about having periods, and about having babies. That's it, pretty much,
Yeah.
right?
That's
S-
the general thought. I agree with you. I
Yeah,
think that's what most people think.
yeah.
And I think we're more and more learning how much it affects everything
It
in our
affects
bodies, right?
everything in our bodies. It affects everything in our bodies. So, I would just kind of skip it over. And
Yeah.
then about right before the pandemic or right around, so, we can always say, okay, that was about 6 years ago then. Maybe 6, 7 years ago, I thought, I got to do something here. And I really started digging in about it and studying it and getting as much material and research as I possibly could. And I was blown away at what our hormones do. And I do hold this personal belief, and it's based on, what comes in my clinic. It's based on other things that I hear and I see as well. And that is, instead of looking at our hormones for, just making babies and having good sex and having a libido, it's about longevity too. And I
Mm.
just
Yeah.
listen to, and that's such a catch-all phrase. And I think women are less motivated to live really long. I think men want to win and they want to live long, but I think
Yep.
women just want to live well and feel really good till, the end. So hormones for both men and women, our sex hormones are integral part of how we age, a real integral part. And I was just listening to another podcast. It was by the Dutch podcast, which is really good. It's very good. We're not going to get into the Dutch test, but um, they were interviewing a pain management doctor,
Mm.
and he does hormones now because what he was
Oh,
watching is both men and women. The patients that would come in and they were on HRT, their recovery and the response to the treatment was so different. He says, I can't ignore this.
really?
Yeah, I can't ignore it.
That's interesting. Let's jump in for a second on women's hormones because a lot of women describe perimenopause as feeling like their body is betraying them.
Yeah,
And for me, even 6 months ago, I didn't even know what perimenopause was.
that's
So this has
amazing.
just
Yeah.
been like a like
Crash course.
eye-opening educational experience for me.
Yeah.
But they talk about brain fog, mood swings, weight
Yeah.
creeping on. Can you walk us through what's actually happening
Yeah.
hormonally and why
Yeah.
it feels so unpredictable, even if periods are still somewhat regular?
Okay. So I'll go to the perimenopause first, and then I'll talk specifically about what estrogen specifically. I'll touch on progesterone and testosterone too, but estrogen is just so much more far reaching that I'll touch on that. So in perimenopause, what you're feeling is you'll feel a drop in progesterone first because we have to make adequate amounts of estrogen and have an ovulation, a full ovulation, for enough progesterone to be made. And when our ovaries start to sputter there, we often will see that drop in progesterone. So what does progesterone do? So progesterone is very calming. It works on our GABA neurotransmitters. It helps with anxiety, so it does work on, neurotransmitters, the GABA. It can help with sleep, again with GABA, again with calming things down. It can
Right.
help, and a lot of people don't realize this, with the conversion of our inactive thyroid hormone, T4, into the active form of thyroid hormone, T3. Okay, so we
Hmm.
might be making enough T4, but if it's not being converted to T3, we're going to be stuck in mud, not being able to do anything. And that's going to affect our energy. So it helps with that conversion. It also helps with bone health. It can help actually build up bone. It's also because it is calming, and progesterone's the primary sex hormone that we have when we are pregnant.
Right.
So, yeah, so it's very common. And if anyone has an autoimmune disease and they are pregnant, they'll find that often it will go into remission. And that is because one of the other functions of progesterone is it really calms and modulates the immune system. And, when we're pregnant, it does it so, we don't reject the fetus. That just totally makes sense. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
So autoimmune disease can come full force in perimenopause, or it would be there for the first time, or it can worsen. And if the doctor is not in tune to that, they may not connect the dots and do the right testing. In perimenopause, I am really adamant about this. And I mean, at all different times in our lives, but especially during perimenopause, when things do feel like the wheels are literally coming off, they do for a lot of women, is we need to have really, really good blood work, because we need to know what's happening with our iron stores, with some of our nutrients, with a really good, thorough thyroid panel. So, and also a metabolic. When I say metabolic, the doctors do a comprehensive metabolic panel, which is not comprehensive at all. So it's
Yes.
not.
It's funny that you say that, because we just talked about the questions you should actually be asking your doctors, because they don't do enough lab tests, and we made a cheat sheet that they can take into the doctor and ask those questions.
Yeah. So I have a PDF, okay, something you can download that lists all of the labs that you should be asking for during the pause years. And then I
Yes,
got a
we
little clap
love
there.
we love
Yay.
those.
And why? So you have an understanding. And then how to ask for it if you get pushback. Okay. So you have a little tool there to help you, um, you know, feel a little bit
Navigate.
more,
Yeah.
advocate for yourself and feeling a little bit more empowered, because I shock myself because I am, usually a fighter. Well, I advocate, but for whatever reason, maybe because I get so triggered when I'm in the doctor's office and they are so blind, I would say stupid, but that's not a good word. But that's
You can
really what
say
I
those
wanted
things
to
here.
say. And what's coming out of their mouths, and when we're talking, I get so triggered that I shut down.
Have
So
you seen? Are you a fan of Parks and Rec,
I
the
haven't
show?
seen it. I guess I
Oh,
should.
there's a scene where Ron Swanson is like, he's like a handyman, like he just knows how to do everything. So he goes into like a Lowe's or something, and somebody's like, "Can I help you, sir?" And he just walks by and he's like, "I know more than you."
Yeah.
And he just like walks
Yeah.
in. That's exactly how it can feel sometimes going
Yeah.
to the doctor.
It does. It doesn't. So I get triggered. So either I am going to be aggressive, or
Or frustrated.
I shut down a lot
Yeah.
of the time. I'm getting better.
I feel you. I understand
Yeah.
completely.
And that's
Yeah.
the other thing is, when you go into a doctor and you do get them to do that, it's like, yay, clap your hands, you did it. But then the doctors don't know what to do with it, and they don't know how to connect the dots. So you need someone like me. I mean, find someone else if, I'm not your person, because starting forever, but definitely in perimenopause, you are going to need to have somebody in your corner, one or two people in your corner that you trust, that you can bounce things off of, because you are going to be offered so many prescription drugs, often when you should not be. I have been offered 3 prescription drugs in the last 2 years.
Wow. Are we talking about like anxiety pills? Or are we
No,
talking
no,
about
no,
like
no, no.
statins?
No,
Or are we talking
no.
about
But the worst one was I was prescribed a biphosphonate, which is for osteoporosis. Okay. I had a DEXA.
Oh,
Okay. Listen to this. I'm getting off a little bit, but I'm hoping it'll be helpful, because you're
yeah.
going to run into this. So it was an older doctor. I didn't particularly care for her, but she did some of the tests that I like to do. And then I did a DEXA scan, which is a bone scan. And it came back where I was slightly osteopenia, not osteoporotic, just tiny, just went over borderline there. So I'm good. My bones are good. At age 68, my bones are looking good. And it's a phone consultation. And she says, well, you have a little osteopenia and you need to take more calcium. And I'm going to put you on a biphosphonate. And I went, what? She didn't ask about my diet. She didn't ask my family history. I mean, she wasn't looking at me. She didn't ask about, what I
Yeah.
do physically. She didn't ask anything. A biphosphonate? You can only be on them for 5 to 8 years and you have to go off because it actually makes the bones more brittle. All right.
Really?
Yeah. There are
Wow.
some appropriate times to do that. That's when we're, really up there and we kind of need to do a stopgap. I'm not opposed to that. But for someone
Yeah.
to recommend that to a woman who they're not even looking at, they're not having a discussion about lifestyle, it is to me malpractice. It really was to me malpractice. Now, fast forward to the doctor that I am still interviewing to see whether or not we're going to stay friends.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. She's a DO, right? A doctor of osteopath. And so they usually have a broader lens. They do. First thing she said when she saw me when I walked in, she goes, "You're on hormone replacement therapy?" I said, "Yes." "I'm not going on." I said, "It served me well for many, many years and I'm not going off." So we had a discussion and then I met her another time and I did email her and I said, "Hey, if this is a deal breaker, then I need to move on. So we need to have a discussion." So she's just very uncomfortable about HRT. She was worried about my age and stroke. That's what she was worried about. Now,
Okay.
there might be a little bit of something to that if a woman is taking oral estrogen, okay, because it has to go through the liver. She's got high inflammatory markers and she's just now starting HRT. Okay. Those are three
Okay.
factors that it's like, okay, but most of us get our HRT transdermally and it doesn't go through the liver that way. It doesn't go through the oral thing. And that's the oral that tends to have more problems with stroke and a certain type of progesterone too. So anyway, we finally got to, she says, "Okay, I'm going to send you to gynecologists. If they okay it and I don't have to do it, then I'm cool with it." I said, "Okay, that's fair." As she was walking out the door, she looks at me and she says, "Oh, I looked at your DEXA scan," because I had sent it to her. And this was her response. She smiles. She goes, "Looks pretty good." She says, "It's your estrogen." And I'm just going, did you just hear yourself? Okay, first of all, it was a completely different take from the other
Yep.
doctor. She was really happy with it. I was happy with it too. And then the fact that she said, "Do you know it's your estrogen? It's your HRT." It's like, what dots are you not connecting?
Yeah.
It's
You
like,
literally.
won't
I'm
prescribe it,
probably,
but you see the benefit of it.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
probably the healthiest 68-year-old you have in your practice. Probably am.
Wow.
Close to it.
Well, I would not believe you were 68 if you didn't
Thank
tell
you.
us.
Thank
So,
you.
for
And
the
the reason
record.
why, I tell people that because I want them to know that
It's possible.
it is possible. I'm not anything, I mean, I take care of myself and I do say this. I do say that HRT is the icing on the cake. In other words, you have to have all those other layers
Yeah.
working to you. If you're just going to slap on HRT, it's just like, putting a medication on it. You still have to do the work. Now, I have changed my tune a little bit in that you still have to do the work, but sometimes women are in such a bad place because of their hormones that they can't even begin to think about eating right. They're not sleeping. They feel like hell. They're depressed or anxious or something. So if we give a little bit of HRT, sometimes we can get them feeling good enough to do the things that they know that they're supposed to be doing, but they can't find it in them because they're not getting the help. Yeah. They're
That
not.
was me.
Okay.
For
Yeah.
sure. It just was the energy levels, the lack of sleep. I was with being iron deficient, I
Oh,
couldn't sleep for months. It
that's
was the most
horrible.
terrible experience, I have to say.
Yeah, it is horrible. And so many women do suffer from that. And if we don't get sleep, ladies, our
The
bodies
house
can't.
crumbles.
The house crumbles, well, literally. I mean,
Yes.
but I mean, inside of you too. And I don't think a lot of women realize this. This is when our bodies recover, and this when our body is taking the trash out. Okay. And it's really important to take that trash out. So we do need to get that sleep. Going back to perimenopause, right? The brain fog and all of that, sleep's part of it. But going to the functions of estrogen. By the way, I just do want to say something about sleep and progesterone.
Mm-hmm.
Oral progesterone, which is what most doctors will prescribe, will help more with sleep than the transdermal. So if someone is going to a transdermal and they're not sleeping very well, I would go to an oral. Now, some women have a hard time digestive-wise with the oral, but these are some things to consider. Okay.
That's helpful. That's actually what I went on to was oral. Because I was having sleep issues. So
Good.
between getting my iron levels up and my progesterone up, I sleep like a baby now.
Good.
So
And it's night and day. It's
it
night
is.
and day.
It really is.
And I do want to say this too, and I'm looking into this, I'm constantly researching, and I like to put aside time to research because I think it's really helpful for my clients, my patients, Um, sometimes we can get in this cycle where our body just cannot let go. And it's a cross between, there's trauma going on, anxiety going on in our heads and emotionally, and we're just overtaxed. And then there can be something else going on physiologically too. And both of those affect mitochondria. Mitochondria are the energy of our cells, okay? But mitochondria is also part of cells getting rid of themselves when it shouldn't be here, okay? And if we
Talking about
don't,
like
if our
zombie cells, like getting rid of those.
yeah. So if we don't have enough DNA in our mitochondria in our cells to do that, those zombie cells are going to keep on replicating. What does that remind you of? Cancer.
Yeah,
Oh,
cancer.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to the core here, ladies. Okay. So one of the things, I'm scaring you maybe a little bit. Maybe I don't want to scare you. I want to get your attention now. I want to get your attention.
Well, it's important, right?
It is
like you got to know what's going on.
Yes.
To be aware.
Yeah. To be aware.
Yeah.
And one of the things that estrogen does is it helps our mitochondria be more active and healthy. So you take that away, we're going to have a tougher time. Estrogen affects every single cell and tissue in your body. It affects your brain. It affects, got high blood pressure? Okay. Did you lose some estrogen? It keeps, it helps to produce nitric oxide, which helps to make our smooth muscles, including our blood vessels, nice and soft and pliable. It affects our metabolic health, what I mean, our ability to handle sugars and carbohydrates and stay insulin sensitive. So that goes away right there. Got it. Just such a list. Bone health. All right. HRT, estrogen, it specifically was approved by the FDA in 1975 to prevent bone loss. Do we hear about it? No. I get my osteoporotic women in, and their doctors are suggesting the biphosphonate or something else similar to that. And I'll say, did they mention anything about estrogen? Nope. Mm-mm. Because they have not been taught. Ever since the WHI study,
It stopped.
It all stopped. There was no conversation anymore. And the conversation about perimenopause and menopause also basically stopped. So, what's happened instead is we have all of these drugs. We do have drugs for hot flashes. We do have drugs for anxiety and, depression and insomnia.
Belly fat.
And for belly fat
now,
too. Yeah, we
and
do.
now for belly fat.
We do. So, a lot of women don't realize why we have that belly fat. So let me tell you why. And let me also tell you why your cholesterol starts to go up during perimenopause. Our bodies are just the smartest machines ever. So when we the backbone, and I already mentioned this, of estrogen over hormones is cholesterol and fat. All right. So when we lose our hormones, start losing our estrogen in particular, our cholesterol will go up for a couple of reasons, 3 reasons really. And it is because it's saying, I still want these hormones. Thank you very much. So we're going to make a little bit more cholesterol to see if we can pump that out a little bit more. We're trying. That's one reason. Another reason why it'll make more cholesterol, and the LDL, which is the bad, I put it in quotes, but it is more inflammatory, is because we have more inflammation. And one of the jobs of LDL is to take inflammation away. Okay, to bind with it.
I did not know that about cholesterol.
Yeah.
LDL is supposed to help with the inflammation.
Yeah. The more inflammation that we have, the more LDL we often will have. Okay. So as a
So
woman,
what is HDL then? Because I thought HDL was the protective cholesterol.
it is the good. So, that
Okay.
one, some people have
Sure.
high, but
Yeah.
that's fine. But it's the LDL that's in the VLDL. It's the one that they watch, right?
Yes.
So that
Yeah.
can go up for that reason. And then let's say if we have, subclinical, so your thyroid levels are within that range, which is not optimal. It's within normal ranges, you have to realize that our normal ranges come from the people that give blood, and the people that give the most amount of blood are usually the sickest people, right? Okay, so that's where our normal ranges come from. So a woman might be subclinical. In other words, it's not showing up on the lab work, but she feels like garbage. That will also push your cholesterol up. So there's 3 reasons right there where your cholesterol will go
Wow.
up. So do we want to treat the cholesterol? I don't think so. And by the way, the thing I'm most interested in your lipid panel, your cholesterol panel, is your triglycerides. Your triglycerides tell you how well you are able to handle your carbohydrates and your sugars and things like that. Now, on your labs, it'll say less than 150. It should ideally be less than 70. I'll take less than 90. Depends on the person. Okay. But 150 is
Man,
way
I'm going to
too
go
high.
check my lab work
Yeah.
now and see what it said.
See what it
So
says.
less than 70, like 70?
Yeah. I mean, that's ideal.
Ideal.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
ideal.
yeah.
But
Well, that's what we're going for, right? Is optimal health, not avoiding chronic disease by a margin.
that is true. But I also want to point out, because people start looking at their labs and find out what optimal levels are versus normal levels, and they can start worrying. It's really important also to know what your track record is. And that's why I love to see really good lab work in your 30s, and then before you move into perimenopause, and then as you move into perimenopause. And
Interesting.
and I am one where my thyroid is never has been, in the optimal. I'm always too low in my T3 and T4, and a little bit not high, but not in your ideal range. But I don't have a lot of any of the, I have 1 or 2 of the symptoms, maybe. But I've been fine. I know where mine is. So when it moves, then I see, okay, for me, this is not normal. So knowing what your range is and knowing what your history is really important. And
I think
doctors don't look at that.
I think that's why it's so critical to go to someone like you, is so that they can help you understand that and realize that it is a journey for each person. It's individual.
It
So
is.
what is right for you, like what's right for Mallory is what is not right for me, and what's right for me is not right for you.
Yeah.
So it's like to each.
Bioindividuality is very real.
It is.
For sure.
It's very important. It's very, very important. Yeah. I mean, we have overall, blanket statements, but then we have to look at the individual too. Yeah, definitely.
So what role does testosterone play? Because I know that's considered like the third.
It's a
hormone for
third.
women,
It's a
right?
third prong there. I do want to, before, just because digestion is such a big whammy for me, and it is for a lot of women. They don't realize it, right?
Right.
So estrogen, we know that it helps with collagen, right? Collagen production. Our skin will look very different if we're taking HRT or putting it on our skin or whatever we're doing. And how it works in the digestive system is collagen. We have little sphincters throughout our whole digestive system so that things don't regurgitate the wrong way. And then, when our body's ready, the sphincter opens, it goes down. But we have a sphincter in between our stomach and our esophagus. And many women will find that they have a lot more acid reflux. And it could be because of that. It could also be because they're not making enough stomach acid. It could be a lot of different reasons. SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or if you want to say IBS, where you're either constipated or having having diarrhea or something like that. Some women get really affected by that, or they're really bloated. They just can't digest the food the way that they used to. Could be a variety of reasons, but one of the reasons could be is that estrogen is really important to make bile. And I think we think of bile as something we throw up. So it's like in the upper part of our body, but bile is made in your liver. And it's super important because it binds with the toxins that your liver processes and even with your hormones. And then it takes that bile and it's stored in your gallbladder until your body needs it. You eat something that's a little bit fatty, and then it'll dump some bile in there. Well, the bile will sterilize your food. It helps with peristalsis of the digestive system, and it helps digest fat. So it's all those things are going on. Some women, and it can be a genetic SNP. A lot of women, we have what we call genetic SNPs. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with this. It just means that if we're not in balance or we're a certain time of our life or something's going on that's stressing us in some way, and definitely perimenopause and menopause is a stressor, then these SNPs will show up. So I have a double SNP, okay, not just one, but two. And I didn't know this. I stumbled upon this totally by accident, and it's been a lifesaver. And that is my body does not combine that choline to make that bile. So I had been working on my digestive system, and I got to probably about 80%, maybe 90% some of the time, but I couldn't get past that. And then my heel started to crack and the skin around my fingers, painful and bleeding. Okay. And then, I go in the ocean and how when you shave yourself that you can get stingy.
Rash.
I had never
Yeah.
had that before. And even when I hadn't shaved myself, I was, finding that I'm going, what is going on here? So I'm thinking thyroid. Okay. That could
Yeah.
be a sign of low thyroid. I have my thyroid checked. Like, no, it's not that. And I stumbled across Dr. Ben Lynch, who teaches about genes and gene SNPs, and he has a whole supplement line, which I do like, and he's brilliant. But anyway, I stumbled across the fact that I have this SNP, and so when I upped my estrogen, and I started to take a supplement to support me making choline, it made all the difference in the world. Yeah. So got around that. Leaky gut can be a part of this. Again, your food sensitivities can increase. So, if you find that you're getting more sensitive as far as the whole digestive system is concerned, it can be estrogen. It can be.
Oh, that's interesting. That's
Yeah.
actually really good to know.
Yeah.
Huh.
Your eyes, dry eyes, frozen shoulder. A lot of women can't, they can't raise their shoulder, their arm. It's like, here
You get the
again, these
rotator cuff
ligaments,
surgery, right?
right? Your
Yeah.
ligaments, your knees, your joints, that synovial fluid. Your hormones make us juicy. Okay, testosterone.
Yes.
Here again, every woman's different. And I tend, depending on the age of the woman, I tend to try to get the estrogen and progesterone dialed in first. Again, it depends on the age of the woman and symptoms and all of that. And then I might bring some testosterone in, again, depending on what's presenting in front of me. It's interesting that both men and women, I'm assuming it's women. I only heard it in terms of men when I heard this, but it totally made sense to me based on labs that I see from men, and then they're not exhibiting any signs of low testosterone. There are some men, and I'm assuming women too, that they have the ability, the receptors, they really absorb their hormones, their testosterone. I've always had low testosterone from the time my early 40s was the first time I was measured. And someone said, that the doctor says, do you want some testosterone? And that was when I was going through my divorce. I thought, no, that's probably not a good idea.
I don't
think I
need any
that.
more aggression.
Yeah, I don't think I need any more complication here. So anything else clouding my judgment. So I said no. And it wasn't until probably the last year or two that I did feel that it was starting to affect me. And so I do a cream now. But so I've always exhibited low testosterone, but I hadn't had the sign. So we always have to look at that together. Some women
that makes sense.
might have kind of normal, right? But she's just, she has all the signs, that it's just not looking good here and she needs some support. So giving her a little testosterone, I don't see any problem with that. Okay. If it's done in a measured way, in a responsible way.
So how often do you, like, once they go on something, how often do you recheck them?
That's a great question. Again, we are all so different.
Yeah.
And we absorb things differently. I would say that within the first 2 to 3 months, I like to see a woman's hormones, okay? When she's in menopause, not necessarily perimenopause. We're all over the place, day to day, hour to hour. That's not the serious. I'm serious. I'm serious.
So they're they're a lost cause.
Yeah, it's just,
Roller
you're not going to get any good read. You're not going to get anything that will help them. You're not.
Yeah.
So there's another test you can do. Actually it's a company, it's called Mira, and it is just a urine dipstick, and they've been out for a while, but mainly for fertility, but now they're using it for perimenopause, which for women who are really struggling, I think that's just, that's great. You can really.
Is it just like for awareness to like understand what your hormones are doing that day, or
it can be, but if some women really do fluctuate a lot and it's just debilitating. So I think it can help them in the beginning to correlate what they're feeling with where their hormones are. And then, maybe applying a little bit of progesterone or estrogen or whatever it is that they need. And they get pretty good at gauging how they're feeling.
Ever work with Dr. Hyman, like the functional health? When you have your clients get their blood work done, do you go through something like that?
Oh, his company, Function Health? They can. I think they do a great job for the price. I can't beat their price. I can match the price pretty much. So if someone, just wants to do the whole kit and caboodle, they haven't gone to the doctor and they want to do the whole thing. I mean, they measure so many different markers. Go for it. But don't stop there. You still need somebody to put the dots, to interpret it, because you will get an AI generated report. You will. Okay. But no.
Well, it can't do all of it, especially can't do the sex hormones.
It can't even do 50. It can maybe do 50%, but 50% is not going to get you anywhere. Okay. So I can order tests. So if someone sends me their test, and I try to get their doctors to do as much as we can. Depends on the person. Some people don't have doctors. It's like, fine, go get it done. Or I can order it for you. But some people they've had enough done where they might only need another 5 to maybe 12 markers. And you don't need the function, health type deal. So I will do that. But Function Health does a good job. Yeah.
That's who Larissa uses.
Yeah. They do.
Because I'm also a Mark Hyman fan.
We're a big Mark Hyman fan for sure.
I'm so glad you know of him.
Yeah. But I need the person to interpret my markers.
Yeah, there's a specific service. It's just that, looking at your blood work, looking at your history, looking at your supplements, and giving you a plan for that.
I want somebody to tell me what to do, because this is how Mallory
Remember,
and I
I
work.
like to tell people what to do, right?
I know that you like that, because I am the opposite. Whereas I tell people what to do all day long at school. I don't want to tell anybody what to do now at home in my personal life. So that's why I love working with Mallory. Mallory tells me what to do, and I just say, okay.
You guys have got a good symbiotic type thing. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I love it. I was like, I will follow your lead and I will support you, but I don't need to tell anybody what to do. That's why I need you, though. I need you to tell me what to do for my health.
Happy to. Happy to.
So she will be reaching out is the
Good,
gist
I'm
of
so
that.
glad. You know, getting blood work for me is like,
Christmas.
it is. It's so much fun for me. And then I go, boop, 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 boop.
Oh, I can totally see it because I got mine in. I was so excited.
Yeah.
So
I like looking at it, but there's only so much I know. And so I would love for
Mhm.
somebody who has a lot of practice reading
Mhm.
it. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
No,
that's
it's
true.
it's a lot to know. It's a lot to know.
yeah. And I
So,
really just want somebody to
Yeah.
read that and interpret it and then tell
Yeah.
me what to do.
And we all have that in different parts of our lives. It's like, just tell me. Just tell me
Oh,
what to
it's
do.
so true.
Yeah. I mean, we can't know everything, right? We can't know
Oh,
everything.
it's true. Yep.
And I don't want to. I enjoy learning from other people, and I do believe in teamwork, and so
Yeah.
that's why I love.
That's why we need a
the whole-
village, right?
Yeah,
We
it
each
really
have
does.
our little spots that we can help each other and support each other in.
That's a great, honestly, I think this is a great place where we can stop. We've talked about women's hormones. And next, we really want to jump into hormone replacement therapy. So tune in. We'll have part 2 next week. And if you loved the series, if you're enjoying what we're doing, what we're talking about here, just leave us a review, share it with a friend who needs to hear it, and stay tuned for the conclusion of our empowering conversation next week. We'll catch you guys on the next episode. Just keeps it fun.
Gotta have that.
Okay, so now that we've discussed women's hormones, oh my gosh, sorry, cut that.
First blooper. Woo woo!
All right, you wellness rock stars, that's a wrap on this episode of My Wellness Rewired, Hacking Women's Health. We've had a blast dishing out the hacks and laughs, but hold up, let's keep it real.
Yep, we are not doctors. We are just sharing our biohacking adventures and learning right alongside you. Nothing we say is medical advice, so always, always check with your healthcare provider before trying any new wellness tricks.
Absolutely. This podcast is all about inspiration and entertainment, not prescriptions. So join our Facebook group for more sassy wellness vibes. Catch you next time.